Hey, this is Dylan Fry, the real estate guy, here to be your guy for any real estate needs in the Kansas City area. I got a really unique guest on here today. He's going to be talking about business insurance, commercial insurance. He's an independent agent. He is going to be able to help you in that space. That is a huge request from a lot of people is, hey, how am I going to get commercial insurance? What do I even need to do? What things do I need to be prepared for? So today's episode, we are going to get into that. But before we do, if this is your first time to the channel, so that you'll get notifications on these weekly interviews, hit that follow button, and then also hit that little bell so that you'll get the notifications of the videos as we're giving you tips and introducing you to new people around the area that can help you out. If you're looking to move to Kansas City area, this is the channel for you because we're going to give you all the information that's going to make that a smooth transition. So today, like I was saying, we have a special guest. We've got Jay Stetzer on here. He's with CEK Insurance. They specialize in commercial insurance. He's a commercial insurance agent. He's going to be able to help you figure out what your business needs for the insurance purposes to make sure that you're protected. So with that being said, we're going to get into it. Jay, if you don't mind real quick, give yourself an introduction.
Sure. I've been in the insurance business for 42 years. Kind of started out as a debit agent. Basically what we did is we collected life insurance premiums in a particular area. I did that for 4 or 5 years and thought there might be a little bit better opportunity down the road. So I went to work for Allstate Insurance. Had a great career with them, left them in 99, and then I went over to the independent agency channel where I'd be able to help my customers better. We have a lot more companies, 8 or 10 different companies, a lot broader coverages. That's a better opportunity, I think, for the customer for choice.
Yeah, it gives them a lot more opportunity to find somebody that fits them specifically. Because I know, and for those out there that's watching this that doesn't really understand the insurance world, there's captive companies and then there's independent companies. So the captive agents only have one company that they can write policies through. The independent have multiple different companies that allow them to essentially broker their products so that way you can find the company that actually best fits you.
That's correct. Yeah, I think the main thing is coverages and then the choice, because a lot of times insurance companies might have 10 and 20, 30% rate changes. And if you're a captive, unfortunately, you're not going to have an opportunity to save that business or to place that person with another company. And we can kind of shop and get you the best deal with 4 or 5 different companies out there. It's a lot better for the customer and for the agents too. So we can offer broader coverages and
there's also
opportunities.
Yeah, there's also like interesting things that different carriers specialize in, especially when it comes to the commercial space. So I feel like in the commercial space, you almost have to be independent because there's so many companies out there you can work with, and every company kind of has their niche. So what are some of the best companies that you've been able to help out?
In regards to insurance companies wise?
No, just in general.
Oh, in general. Okay, bars and restaurants is my focus, also contractors. The insurance industry as a whole today is having some major changes. They've having like 20, 30, 40% rate changes. A lot of insurance companies are cutting back on coverages. There's building coverages, apartment buildings in particular. A lot of insurance companies don't want to write the buildings. They want to have a 2 to 5% wind and hail deductible. But the bars and the restaurants, I kind of feel sorry for those guys because the insurance companies are cutting back on their coverages in regard to the liquor liability, the assault and battery, the tort law, and the plaintiffs in regards to lawsuits. That's the main thing that's driving the insurance industry is that insurance companies are having these multi-million-dollar lawsuits and they can't really price for those particular items. For example, I had a customer that they got brought into employee practice liability, a claim, a sexual harassment, discrimination type claim, and they didn't have that coverage on there. And so,
which is wild.
Right, exactly. And they had to defend that themselves, and it was $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to defend it. So that's a very important coverage that you need to have.
Well, and I think that's a very important part when you're talking to these business owners that they need to be educated on is everyone's like, oh, that'll never happen to me, or no, that'll never happen. But these type of situations happen to everybody. Sometimes they're not even true, But if you don't have that coverage, the insurance company is not going to be the one to pay for those legal defenses. That was one thing that when I was in the insurance world, before I got in the real estate world, was I always focused on is, yes, like you can have these lower coverages, but at the end of the day, the company is going to make a really quick decision on, is this worth fighting or not? Because those lawyer fees are going to add up. If you have proper coverages, then they either have to pay out those full proper coverages, or they've got to pay for the attorneys to make sure that they don't have to pay out those full things, and make sure that things are done the right way instead of just settlements and et cetera. So it is good to have that coverage just so that you can have that legal defense. Like you said, it's $30,000-$40,000 to defend that.
Right, or even more. Yeah, we had another customer that had an issue that they didn't have liquor liability on their policy. Well, the insurance company got brought into the lawsuit, whether they had to defend that. Which I don't know how the attorneys did that, but for some reason they had to pay $100,000 to insurance companies, and they didn't even have that coverage on the policy. So you can imagine, insurance is there to, they're a business too, but it's like, how do you price something like that when you got to pay all these money out? So they're very cautious right now, and they're cutting coverages, and it's kind of tough.
I don't think that's only in the commercial side either.
No, auto and home is the same.
Because I've got a lot of friends that are insurance agents, and I've talked to a lot of them, and they're having issues writing homes at with less than a 1 to 2% deductible.
Right. Yeah. The insurance companies are kind of pulling in all the reins in regards to roof age now. So some companies will go back 10 years now, some go back 15 years, and they're all going to give you an actual cash value. I kind of see probably what might happen, hopefully not, is that they're going to put it all on an actual cash value basis, your roof, and then maybe you have to buy that back, the replacement cost, or it's only a certain amount of years they'll let you do that. Cause
some companies already do that.
Right, exactly.
Like I know a few companies that they didn't even offer a full replacement on roofs.
Yeah, and a lot of companies won't exclude roofs. So the problem is if the customer comes to us, and we had 7-8 different companies to choose from, but with all the limitations and we have to jump to, we only might have 2 or 3 companies that will do that. So the main thing is, how old's your roof? Well, it's 17 years old or 16. I don't really have a product as long as you want actual cash value, and then the mortgage companies won't like that because you have to have replacement costs. So it's kind of a
cat and mouse game. It's hard.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is definitely hard for insurance agents to find the right policies for people, especially with everything that's going on. And roof sales is a big thing right now. So there's a lot of roofers going out and doing that, which is leading to like going out inspecting these roofs. And I know that's a big industry where people are trying to make a lot of money off of roof sales, and they're coming out and saying, hey, this one has a little bit of hail damage here. And then it's turning into big claims for the insurance companies. And then at the end of the day, I've always told people, insurance companies are not a non-for-profit. So but it is like, that's the thing with insurance, is everybody's got to diversify the risk. So now everybody's seeing those 30-40% increases.
Right.
And it is nuts.
It's a maintenance issue. I think that the insurance company is kind of draw a line in the sand probably 10, 15 years ago. It's like, if your roof is X amount old, you need to kind of get it fixed on your own. You can't wait for that hailstorm to, give you a brand new roof. And I think that's what's catching up with them now. And they're saying, hey, we're not going to pay that anymore. And you're just going to have to, pay for it or buy a policy like that. So it's kind of hard to explain to customers that concept. But from a business point of view, if you come that direction, then they can maybe understand it, because California, in regards to Allstate, State Farm, and Farmers, they pulled out of that state. So it's like if the 2 or 3 or 4 big companies are losing big time money, it's a domino effect. So I think it's going to happen to all the other companies in regards to they're going to tighten up their rules, raise their rates. They're just going to
and that happens pretty frequently.
Yeah,
because I used to be with State Farm, and there was multiple states where they didn't write fire policies, or they didn't write certain things because they, at the end of the day, they weren't profitable.
Right. The losses, kind of catch up with you there. So I think that the main thing for agents, what we try to do is, write the best risk possible. We're kind of the eyes and ears of the insurance company. And so we want to make sure that we put profitable, business on the books, but we can't control, the weather and, all the hurricanes and then the
correct.
tornadoes
Yeah,
and everything. So that's another issue that we deal with too, and they're trying to figure out a way to write property in certain areas, and it's not working too good, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. Well, and you can talk a little bit on this, but I had a conversation with a guy here recently, and I know a lot of people out there when they're shopping for insurance, some people are looking for the cheapest price, and they're trying to find this best deal. And they've heard from somebody, well, if you tell them that you use your car for business, or you tell them that you do this, then you're going to end up getting a rate increase or something like that. You hit on something a little bit earlier, which is exactly what I told this guy when he brought me his claim. I was like, did you tell them that you drove your car for business? And he said, yeah, I told him. And I said, did they rate it for business? And he goes, well, I believe they might have. And I was like, you need to make sure they did, because he had just gotten into an accident and his insurance company was possibly going to end up getting involved. And I was like, because if you didn't, they have the ability to deny that claim because you were driving your vehicle during business time, like while you were working. Right.
I had a instance years ago that delivery, if you use your car in delivery, with Pizza Hut and things like that, and they were driving, they got in a wreck, unfortunately, and they had a claim they turned in, and they had a Pizza Hut box in the back seat. No, I'm not doing Pizza Hut. Well, and this company denied the claim because they were using their car in business. So the insurance companies want to get the proper rate for the proper exposure. So, if you're delivering years ago when you had Uber and Lyft, the insurance companies didn't know what to do with those. We didn't have a product to offer. So now they have a little extra endorsement we can add on for the Lyft or the Uber driver, something like that. But yeah, business use,
and it's
undisclosed drivers. There's anything that the insurance companies, unfortunately, can deny a claim. You got to be very upfront with them, and drivers in the household you don't disclose. All those things will kind of catch up with you. So I'm at the point where I disclose everything. I give you the best coverages. I give you the kind of the Ferrari policy, price, claims, services, all, piece of the pie. But a lot of agents will just give you a price. Here it is. Well, how'd you come up with these coverages? Did you get this coverage? So I give you a list and say, okay, here's what we have to offer. You let me know what you want, Dylan, and we'll take those coverages off. You don't want, okay, sign here. You don't want this umbrella here. So we go through it. And most of the time when you compare policies with other agents and other companies out there, they're lacking a lot of the coverages and the newer coverages that are out there. So I'm more of a coverage guy, because it's like, it doesn't really matter what the price is going to be. If you don't have the coverage in place in time of claim, then that's the problem.
Well, and it's a huge thing to put these, if you're going to get quotes, multiple quotes. One, if the guy's not asking you a bunch of questions, you go somewhere else, because he is throwing a blanket policy at you that is his cheapest thing that he knows how to sell, and it's super easy for him. If they're not asking you a ton of questions, they're not filling anything out. And if they are asking you a ton of questions and then you get a policy and you've got these 2 or 3 people that you are looking at separately, go through them and see what is the same, what's different on those policies, or find somebody you can trust. Because I have insurance guys that I trust, and if I got something from somebody else, I'm handing it to them and saying, hey, what's the differences between these two?
Right.
Because you look at it all the time. You can say, oh, well, this, and this is not there. And then you can go back to that other guy and be like, hey, why didn't you add this, and this? And they'll be like, oh, you'll never need that. Oh, you'll never need that. Or they'll say, well, that costs this much extra. Well, now the prices are starting to look pretty comparable.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because a lot of times they don't have an umbrella policy. They don't have the higher limits here. They don't have all these extra coverages. And you'd be surprised at people doing this forever, 10, 20 years, and then their agent never brought up an umbrella policy, or you don't have, data recovery or sewer line coverage or jewelry coverage or earthquake, have all these extra coverages. It's like, well, I would have bought that if I would have known about it, but no, nobody ever talked to me about that. Or
correct.
So that's the main thing, is that we kind of do line item by line item on the coverages, and then say, do you want this coverage? Do you want this? Oh yeah, and price kind of almost doesn't even come into the equation sometimes, because they want the coverages. And it's like, okay, it costs you more money, correct, but did you not have those? Well, wow, I need those coverages now. So
but the amount of money that
realize the benefit.
Yeah, the amount of money that it's going to cost you if something does happen is way more than it's ever going, that policy premium is ever going to be. Because especially when you're talking about umbrellas and all, and these other things, like for the viewers out there, an umbrella is going to be a blanket coverage for liability purposes over the top of your other policies, whether it's commercial umbrella or a personal umbrella. When you have that umbrella on top of there, it is not that expensive for an umbrella. Like it is. And the amount of, when I was an agent, my first year in my office that I sold 56 umbrellas because everybody in there needed one.
Right. Everybody does, whether you for $150, $200, another $1 million on top of your coverages. Believe me, if I give you $1 million and I give you a couple, $200, that's a good deal.
And if you, and here's the thing, I always sell people stuff, or used to sell people insurance all the time. And I was like, I hope that you never have to use this. Like at the end of the day, I hope you never have to use it, because if you do, this is the last of your worries. But if you don't take these coverages out, this is going to be your first worry, day and night.
Right, exactly. I had a guy that he had a home, and I wanted to give a quote with him one time. He had a claim, and I wasn't able to give him a better deal than he had. And he calls me up about a year later, and he goes, well, I had another claim, and it's like, okay, well, he had a $10,000 deductible. He didn't even know it, and then he had something else stolen, and it was another $10,000 deductible. He couldn't even make a claim. So that's the thing, as agents just need to do the right thing. And then the customers, when you're dealing with price, is like, okay, you got a way better deal, but yeah, who has a $5,000 or $10,000 deductible that they didn't even know about? So that's the thing.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of a training gap in new agents as well, because I think there is so much going on inside of an insurance policy, and half of the agents that write them don't understand them.
Right. Yeah, when you get into commercial, a lot of people, they do a lot of personal lines. They kind of try to dabble in the commercial space, and unfortunately, that's kind of an area maybe they might not should go into. And I've able to help out a lot of people because just unfortunately they didn't know the knowledge or the expertise in the commercial arena to help these people, and they appreciated that. I mean, I actually have areas that I'm not proficient in, and I'm willing to say, hey, you need to go to this other expert over here in the insurance because this is not my field. I could do it, but I'm not, an expert in that area. So I would hand that off, which some people need to do sometimes if it just gets too complicated and they don't understand.
Well, at the end of the day, like you can't know everything. Like, so if you're trying to sell all these different policies, it's going to end badly because it's so hard to know everything. I mean, I sold a lot of personal lines and life insurance, but at one point in time, I said personal lines, I had specialists in my office that said, hey, you do this, I'm going to handle this. And then people would come in and say, hey, can you write my auto policy? And I was like, let's go over here to my personal line specialist, because they're going to do this at a better than I am. But on the life insurance side, I knew the ins and outs of it. Now I'm not writing any life insurance policies. I still understand them. I do real estate. I do residential real estate. It's the same thing. It's same thing with residential and commercial.
Right.
In the real estate industry.
Different world.
It's two different worlds. And there's even third worlds. There's like the flipper side of it. I know that one really well because I've done a lot of flips and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I know how to work with hard money lenders, etc. I know how to do those. The actual commercial side, there is so much that goes into those contracts.
Right.
It's a lot. You have to study it, and that's why there's not as many commercial agents as there is residential real estate agents. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, you have to kind of find your niche. I've got a couple niches, like I said, with bars and restaurants and contractors. So it's kind of like stay in your lane almost, because sometimes you can get out of it. It can get you in trouble.
Yeah, and there's stuff that you can miss. And here's the thing: when it comes to E&O, I was having this conversation with a broker the other day, and I'm like, when it comes to E&O, negligence is not going to be an excuse.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we kind of like to have trailing documents in regards to, Dylan, I offered you the umbrella policy, I offered this employee practices, I offered the cyber, all these big items that a lot of people miss, and they're very, very important. So we have to say that we offer those to you, and you decline those because we have to, help ourselves in due diligence in regards to that too. Because unfortunately, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, well, he never offered me this," and then kind of go south from there. So
yeah,
just kind of offer you everything, and you tell me what you kind of don't want. You just need to sign here on the dotted line.
And here's the other thing: if you're signing a letter to decline a coverage, you probably ought to take a double look.
Right.
Because at that point in time, if this is this important that they are having you sign a declination letter, that's an important that's came up before.
Right. And sometimes they'll reconsider. It's like, well, you said it was only $200. Oh, I'll go ahead and get that now. So I think that the thing is education. I do a lot of that. And I think agents, unfortunately, probably don't spend enough time educating their customers on the ins and outs. I'm a storyteller about
you've had 43 years.
What can happen. And they appreciate that and give them life experiences and tell them exactly what could happen. A lot of agents just don't do that, or I don't know, whatever reason, they'll just, kind of slap it against the wall and go down the road. But we like to have long-term customers, referrals are always good. So I've been doing this a long time. So it seemed to be working so far. So,
well, and I think if you're a newer agent and you're just getting into this, or you're seeing it and you're trying to get into the insurance world, figure out what your niche is, where you want to go to, then go find the old guys that have been doing this for a long time and ask their stories. Be like, what are your horror stories? What are the worst things you've seen? What are the best things you've seen? That's how I got really successful in the insurance world, is I always hung out with the old guys. I found out what kind of claims they had going on, what their old claims were, and how to prevent that from ever coming up. Because here's the thing, you don't know it until it comes across your desk and you have to actually handle it, unless you're doing this research by talking to older people and figuring out what's going on with them, because then you can prevent that from ever getting to your desk.
Right. Because at one time I wasn't really much into the commercial space and more of our personal lines. And I was like, well, what am I missing here? Let me try to, dip my feet in the water, so to speak, and get into commercial. And that's exactly what I did. There's some older agents and owners of agencies, and then I talking to them. I said, well, you just need to, find a couple niches here. And so once you get comfortable and you're kind of being an expert in those fields, it takes a little while to do that, but it's a lot better, because I kind of swore off commercial. I thought it was, taboo or something. It was just
a lot
too
of
hard.
agents do.
I can't figure this out. So yeah, you can do this. Yeah, I can do this. And so that's what I did. That's my main focus now, is because I think there are a lot of commercial, probably more maybe than the residential, that kind of really don't know the coverages and everything that they kind of need, more than the auto and homeowner people, because they have a lot more to risk and just education is the main thing.
They have a lot. In most businesses, they have more money on the line that's at risk, but they also open themselves up to a lot more risks, which I think is two different things. Like, they may have more money, but they also have a lot more opportunity for risk. And that's where you have to be very on top of it, because you never know what is going to happen.
Right, exactly. Because that's the main thing. We take our time and we kind of go over everything, because a lot of things change. The employees, 2 or 3, 4, new employees, or you've added another item to the list, or now you're doing XYZ, or you're doing delivery, or you're adding a car or two. So there's things that you wouldn't think about asking, or I'm going to open up a second location. Okay, where's that going to be? And all those other things. So just kind of staying on top, and then just kind of build that relationship, is the main thing.
Well, and that's important to have a commercial insurance agent that's working with you, because then they're frequently, if they're doing their job, they're frequently talking to you, different stuff like that. They're keeping up on what's going on, because every entrepreneur knows it. We get busy. We do new things. We bring on a new team member. We bring on this, that, whatever it is. We bring on new employees. We get rid of old employees. They're no longer driving vehicles. You have to update that stuff. And if you don't, and you have a driver that's out driving for your company and he's not on the policy, that's an issue. And I had that in a small town. I used to have that all the time. We'd have to call them once a month to update their records because we knew they were never going to call us and tell us anything.
Right.
And as an insurance agent, you get to know your clients, and like if you're following up with them once a year and you notice every single year they've had like 17 changes that they never reported to you, you should probably start following up with them a little bit more often.
Right. Yeah, that's the main thing, is that people need, if any changes, they need to kind of let us know.
Correct.
Because it impacts your policy and your rates. You're doing something, outside the box, or you got another thing that, okay, well, you're doing this, but because I had one guy one time, he had a print shop and t-shirts and stuff. And so he had a K2 display in his retail location, and he calls me up and said, "Hey, I've got a claim." I was like, "What happened?" "Well, this K2 display, this display just kind of walked out my building." And I go, "What?" It's like $5,000 or $6,000 of inventory. It's like, what, you're selling this stuff? And it's like, okay, it was legal back then, and we paid the claim, but unfortunately, we had to rate that for that, and he kind of didn't went with another company after that. But so there's just small stuff like that they change their operations, or a lot of things is 1099. So I have a W-2 in contractors, for example, and you have all these 1099 people, and you don't tell us, and then they don't have their own general liability, they don't have their own work comp, and then you get audited every year, and you get an audit for $10 or $15, $20, $50,000, and that's not good because you didn't tell me you have all these other people, and you're giving them insurance, and the insurance company has to collect that money from you. So that I always go over that and be surprised that the contractors don't know the difference between 1099 and W-2 and audits. So that's the first thing I say to people in the contracting world. I just had a conversation with a guy today, and he's had a couple of people, and I say, "Well, do you have a contract with these 1099s?" "Well, no." I say, "Well, so you don't have any kind of risk transfer? Once something happened, he put something in wrong, or what happens if he gets in a wreck, in his car, and he's working for you under work comp?" Well, so we're going to have kind of a heart-to-heart. I kind of scared him, unfortunately, a little bit maybe, but it's like reality. That's the thing, is I'll tell people that this is the real world. This is what you need to know. And he's dealing with an 800 number, on the internet, didn't have an agent. And so I was like, okay, we need to talk and kind of get you straightened out. So, and nobody knows that. The internet, everything's fine. You don't have an agent, you don't have an advocate. So there's so many gaps I've seen so many times that we just need to get you the correct policy and the coverages, because you have exposure, and you have something bad that could happen.
Well, and there's such a knowledge gap.
Right.
And not because people are stupid. People are extremely smart. There's extremely smart people that I talk to all the time, and they'll say something, I'll be like, "Oh, that doesn't sound good." Like, because I've had the background in insurance, I've seen different situations where people have something happen. It's helped me a lot as a real estate agent, because when I write contracts, I always protect every party involved, because I'm like, hey, we've got to make sure we do this correctly so that we don't have any hiccups in the future. And people are like, "Oh, let's do it on the word or on somebody's word." And I'm like, that's not how we work here.
Right.
We're going to make sure that this stuff is in the contract, so that way it is super black and white, because and that comes from my insurance background, because if you have any kind of vagueness, it opens up liability risk.
Right.
And liability risk is huge. Yeah.
Because a lot of times, it's a contract between two parties. So if the agent, for whatever reason, doesn't put things on there correctly, or you don't answer questions and they're answering that for you, which I've had that happen before. Another guy years ago came back to me, and they had an issue because the agent, he didn't sign on the dotted line. The customer, the agent did, and so that got into me a big mess too. So always try to answer the questions from the customer. Here's the applications. This is your signature. This is this. And rather than to have the agent fill it out because you don't know what they put on there, and you didn't read the contract, you trust them, and you say, "Oh, your roof is 5 years old, but it's 20 years old," and then you have a roof claim, and then they find out, and it's like, "Well, is that your signature, Mr. Smith?" Well, it is. So people need to make sure that they read everything that they sign. A lot of people don't.
Read everything that they sign.
Right.
And then for the agent's side, make sure they understand what they're signing too.
Right.
Like, because, and I think people are like, like, and I don't think there's anybody that's really out there like, oh, I got him. Like I was able to pull this one over on this guy. Maybe you don't understand it, but make sure they understand what they're signing. And sometimes you have to, because I used to have this situation a lot. I sold a lot of hospital income, which was like a supplemental health policy. And one of the ways that I described it was it was a policy that if you were hurt or injured, you were going to get $250, and it was going to be able to help you. It would be able to if you were walking down the street, you rolled your ankle, had to go to the chiropractor, different stuff like that. It's going to pay out for those instances. I used to tell people that all the time, and then they'd see it on their bill, and they'd call in and they'd say, I don't want this hospital income policy. And our secretary would be like, oh, if you don't want it, we'll just cancel it. And I was like,
didn't tell you.
And then they would call in and they'd be like, hey, I rolled my ankle. And I know we set up that policy. And I'd be like, you called in and can't, like, who canceled it? So then we had to go through an entire deal where they knew they had the hospital income. And every time I talked to them, I would go back through the entire thing. But I said everything a certain way.
Right.
Because it actually related to them. Because if you just say, hey, I'm going to throw on this rider, they're like, I don't need that. But then when you say the instances that it could possibly happen, and then they realize like, hey, that's an everyday,
right?
Like, that's an everyday occurrence. And then you write that policy. If you don't tell them that when they call in and say, I don't want this, they're like, they've completely forgot about that conversation you had 2-3 months ago where you told them exactly what it would pay out for. But they'll remember it when that thing happens.
Right.
And then they'll call you.
Exactly. Yeah. I had an instance years ago where documentation comes into play where this person wanted to take off this full coverage on their car. They're going to sell it. I said, are you sure you want to do that? You know, it's around the 4th of July or whatever. And I'll be dang, a Roman candle came through their car, burned it up. She called me the next day. I said, well, did you take that off? I said, yes, I sent you that paperwork. You know, we took that off, you know, your policy, unfortunately, you know, so that kind of happens. The accidents, you know, happen, but documentation to make sure, you know, everybody's on the same page.
That happens more often. That every single agent I know has had that exact situation happen. Like, which is wild. If you're thinking about taking full coverage off your car, don't, because it never fails. Like, I had a lady that called me and her husband's car, he hadn't moved it forever. And she was like, I want to cancel the insurance on the car. And I was like, well, hey, we can leave comp on it, because then if like a tree falls on it or something happens, like we can just leave comp on it. And she's like, gave her the pricing. She's like, no, we don't want to do that. Let's cancel it. Okay. Canceled it. 2 months go by. Husband calls. Hey, I need to file a claim. This tree fell on my car.
You willed it to him, huh?
And literally, and they were like, no. And then she tried to, she did say, this was a situation where luckily I had all the paperwork and had everything in there.
He didn't know about it? Probably not.
I guess not. And she had said, she was denying it. She was like, I never told them that. I never told them that. I never told them that.
Right here, Mrs.
And that's how it happened. And then she was like, yeah, I did tell them that. And then the entire dynamic shifted, but that happens all the time.
Right,
so people got to be prepared for that.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you have divorces and you got 2 or 3 cars, you know, one person wants to take the other car off and the other driver off, and some agents go ahead and do that. But it's like, no. We need a signature on the person's car that you're trying to take off, or the driver, because it's never happened to me, but I've had other friends say that, you know, once you took that other car off and something happens, then there's no coverage. It's like, well, did you do this, and then you got a big issue there.
Well, and people don't realize that if you're still married, and you're still at risk whether he's driving that car or not. So your assets are still at risk. I don't cancel that policy until you have proof that they have other insurance, and you guys can decide that. I would never get into that. It is a tough conversation to have with divorcees, because they're both like, I don't want anything. Sometimes they're both like, I don't want anything to do with them. I'm not paying for this. Well, yeah.
Some companies literally want some documentation, or they won't even take it off. You know, they just, I think they've had that happen too many times.
Correct.
Maybe had to pay or something. So they say, we're not taking off till you get something from that. And then they don't know where that person is. And I say, hey, I got to keep the policy on here. You're going to have to keep pay it, or have to cancel, or have to rewrite it to another policy. And that's what happens, is they'll just, do one of those things because they want them off. But it's like, I can't legally do that. You're going to have to, let it cancel, or I'll rewrite it once it's renews or something. So.
Yeah, in which it's hard. It's a tough situation. Anytime there's multiple people involved and it turns south, it turns south quick. So what are some big things that business owners, especially the commercial ones that you work with, what are some big things that they need to be concerned about when they're looking for insurance?
Probably the company itself, in regards to the claim history, the coverages that they have to offer. Because a lot of companies, being an independent agent is the best thing, because they're on the property, they're having like maybe a 1 or 2, 3, 5% deductible. So if you got the big building and the roof, it might not even be covered because you got this big deductible. So a lot of companies will have just maybe a flat deductible. So that's the main thing there. Exclusions, you have to look at exclusions, especially on the bar and restaurant business, for that. Water sewer backup, spoilage.
Spoilage is a huge coverage. If you
cyber, that's huge. I really need to probably focus more on my cyber liability coverages in regards to there's separate line items for that,
especially nowadays, because there's so much going on in that space.
Yeah, and some people, there's sub limits. So here's the thing too, with most insurance policies, they didn't have it before. Now they're giving you a little bit of coverage, but sometimes it's not enough coverage, or doesn't exclude XYZ here. So you have to look at that. Back again to employee practice liability coverage. That's huge. A lot of them have no clue, if they have that coverage. Sometimes there's little sub limits in the policies, but I recommend probably $1 million policy, on the side. Hired a non-owned auto. That's another thing that people miss. If you have delivery or going to the store, or people just driving out, work comp again. So there's all these different coverages that you might not even think about, or you think they're covered. Oh, I thought I had that. Oh, I didn't have that. Well, off-premises utility coverage, you have a transformer that goes out on the block, and you're out for 3 or 4 days. You lost all of your inventory. You lost your food. You lost, income.
Correct. You got to have something to replace it.
Right. So that's the thing, is that you really need to look at what the scenarios that could happen, and how do you protect yourself and have that covered in your policy. You might have to pay more to get those coverages, but most likely you want them anyway. And it's like, well, oh man, I didn't know I didn't have that. I didn't have that. I had a gentleman the other day on a homeowner, and now they have sewer line, service line coverage, where years ago they had no coverage for that. So from the street to your house, you're kind of responsible for that. So he had a backup of sewer, and they paid for that. And then we had the sewer line covered because they looked at the camera through that, and we had a cracked water main line. And so with the service line coverage, it paid for that. And it was like $8,000-9,000.
Oh, it's always.
He had it literally they were in his front yard digging it up at the time. And I said, hold on, okay, you have that coverage. So I would bet probably 75-80% of homeowners probably don't have that coverage, or don't know about it, because it's only been out for 5-7 years, maybe, I don't know. But so there's extra little bitty coverages like that I was a hero with this guy, save him, all this money because he had it. And it's very inexpensive. It was like, I don't know, $70-80. I don't know how the insurance company could just charge such a low amount.
Well, because the claims, those type of things don't pop up all the time. Right. And that's where people need to understand, like, if you're an agent and you're out there, this is sales 101. If you want to sell more business, add more things to that policy to make you better than the other person. But you got to understand them, because you're going to get in phone calls and somebody's going to call you and say, hey, I'll give you a situation I had when I was up there. I sold a lot of, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was called Z coverage or whatever, where it was accidental death on the auto policy. If they were involved in a car accident, now that was transferable to whether they were in other people's cars as well, as long as you had every person in the household listed on that coverage. So what happened was, this guy was working on the side of the road on a tractor. He had worked on tractors his entire life, pulled over to help this other person, was working on this tractor. He's driving, or somebody came down, hit the tractor, ended up killing him. As soon as I heard that he passed away, anytime I had a client and I heard that they passed away, the first thing I did was pull out my phone, went to my database, and started looking for life insurance policies. I was like, dang it, doesn't have anything. And then I start to feel responsible, and then I'm like, all right, now I got to look through this. And at first I heard it was a car accident, so I'm looking at the car policies, but then I find out it's not his car. He wasn't in the car accident. He wasn't in a car. And I looked at it, and I was like, oh, he has that coverage. And I was like, I'm going to see what we can do here. So I called him, and I was like, hey, he was doing this. It was another car that hit him, and they ended up paying him out $10,000.
Gotcha.
Which was crazy, because before that, the wife was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I got to figure out how to pay final expenses out of our stuff. Just lost an income earner. Like, that's a nightmare situation. And just because we had that additional coverage on that auto policy, we were able to do it. But if an agent doesn't know what that coverage is, and you look at that auto policy and you're like,
right,
well, or it's not their auto, so you're like, well, this isn't going to mean anything, and they just kind of pass to the side. You have to understand what those coverages are if you're going to sell them.
Right, exactly. Especially the auto, there's like 3 or 4 different levels of medical payments, and so I said, well, look, here's 5,000, or 10,000, or in Kansas PIP, it's 27,000, 4,500, 10,000. So the difference between the lower and the higher is pretty small. So it's like, okay, well, why wouldn't I get this 27,000 or 25,000 medical? It's only another $40 a year or whatever. You might not, like an umbrella, you might not ever use it, but if something happens, you don't have to use your medical, at work, or your own personal, medical.
And it pays out a lot faster.
Right, exactly. There's no deductible. So it's kind of like extra coverage, kind of like almost like an accident plan on a car wreck.
Correct. And it helps pay deductible. I mean, I've had clients to where they had medical payments, and then they also they carried a higher deductible because health insurance is expensive as heck, and they carried a higher deductible, and then they'd get into an accident, that medical payments would pay out, and that would cover their deductible.
Right.
So, I mean, there's
small stuff like that.
There's so many things about an insurance policy that you can't just buy whatever you find is the cheapest online. Like, there's so many places out there that's talking about, oh, come here and you'll get affordable insurance. Well, that's cool, but what are you giving up?
Right, exactly.
Now, if you can put them line to line and they're just cheaper and whatever, I encourage still look at the claim history, see how they're handling stuff, see if they've been in this area for a while. Because one thing, when I was in the independent market, because I got into the independent market for a little bit, carriers fluctuate in that independent market. They'll come in really strong, and then all of a sudden 6 months later, they're taking 40, 50% increases on all of their policies. And the next renewal is when you're going to get hit with that. And now there's so much that goes into rating. Now you're trying to switch back out of it. And if you've had a claim, then it's dang near impossible to switch back out of it. It's nuts. There's so much that goes into insurance.
Yeah, because a lot of the tech companies they're popping in here every year or two. But now if you look at it, a lot of them are going under, or they're limiting coverages. So they got in it maybe to make the quick buck, but now they decided that, well, maybe this isn't the right thing to do. So
maybe this isn't our best bet.
Right, exactly.
We got to know what our coverages are a little bit better. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on here. Before we hop off here and wrap it up, I think it's going to be a huge value to any of the listeners out there, because they're learning stuff that's intricate to their businesses. Like, you need to know all of this stuff. You need to have somebody in your corner that is helping you walk through those things, because you never know what's going to pop up in that risks realm. But if somebody's looking for that, what is your go-to pitch? Why should they call Jay Stetzer?
Well, I think my experience, the years of experience and the coverages, I really take my time with my customers, and we kind of tell stories and really dice and slice their policies to see exactly what they have, and find the right companies that'll fit your needs, because everybody that has 5 or 10, 15 years at the same company, they might not have, like I said, these coverages. They might not have XYZ umbrella. They don't have this. They don't have that. So just to get and then now is a perfect time, because the rates are going real high, and we have other companies right now that would be able to help you out. So just the knowledge and the service and the 80, 90 years in business of our agency, been around a long time. And then the service, you have a real agent, you're not doing an 800 number. We have 7, 8 different companies to choose from on the personal lines and commercial side. So just an opportunity, no obligation to review your coverages. And you would unfortunately probably be surprised of the gaps that you might have. But then we kind of go from there.
And I think that is huge. If you've got a business out there and you're trying to make sure that you're in the best situation possible, give Jay a call. He's going to go through the entire policy. I've gained a lot of knowledge from him. We met last year in the ACA, and I've gained a lot of knowledge from him on the commercial side and sent some people over his way. And everyone that I've sent to him has been like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. So I think that is one big thing, is the experience that he has. The 43 years is huge. And you hit on it earlier where you were talking about you were in personal lines originally, and then you went and figured out how to get into the commercial stuff and then focused on the education side of it. That's a huge part. He's been able to educate himself, and now he understands the policies and can help you understand them as well. So I think that's huge. Again, Jay, I really appreciate you coming on here.
Appreciate it. Can I give my information?
Yes, that was going to be my last question, was how the heck do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry about that. So it's J.Y. Stetzer, Stoetzer. I'm with CEK Insurance. I'll give you my email. It's the letter J, Stoetzer at cekinsurance.com. And my cell number, you can catch me anytime, 913-221-7764. I'll be happy to look your policies over and give you my analysis, and we'll kind of go from there. That'd be perfect.
I encourage you, if you're listening to this and you need help with that, give him a call. Call that number right now. And for any future reference, if you've got any needs for the real estate industry and you're looking to move to the Kansas City area, give me a call, 816-903-1523. I'll be able to help you out. I'll also be able to help you get in front of people like Jay, like different people we've had on these interviews that are going to help you make an educated decision on your next home purchase in the Kansas City area. But if this is your first time to the channel and you really like this video, hit that like button. Also, hit that follow button so that you'll start seeing all of our videos, and then hit that little bell so you'll get notifications of any of the future interviews that we're doing with different people, so that you'll learn more about the Kansas City area and the businesses that are close to you. Thank you.